if you accept mutual adhyasa between Atma and Anatma, you will end up in Shunyavada, which implies that there exists neither Atma nor Anatma. Or if you don't accept mutual adhyasa, slightly modified thing, Dehamatrasya Atman adhyasa, body alone, that is Anatma alone is superimposed upon the Atma. Body alone is adhyasta upon the Atma, whereas Atma is only connection is adhyasta, contact is adhyasta, Atma is not bodily adhyasta. So if you take this way to avoid Shunyavada, in order to avoid Shunyavada, if you accept this way, Purvapakshi says even that doesn't help because it goes against experience. You can't say body is totally adhyasta, body comes into existence only during adhyasa, and before adhyasa or after adhyasa body doesn't exist, you can't say. Because Purvapakshi says body exists before adhyasa, after adhyasa. Adhyasa is an additional, but body's existence doesn't depend upon adhyasa. This is Purvapakshi's thing. Vedantin told Deha and the entire Anatma comes into existence only during adhyasa. Without adhyasa, it has no existence. Even during adhyasa, it has no existence because during adhyasa, it only perceived, falsely perceived. But Purvapakshi says, no. It exists before adhyasa, and after adhyasa too, it continues to exist. During adhyasa, only it is connected to Atma. This is what. Now we are coming to an Atma. This is about body. This is about Anatma. Then what about Atma? Atma is only the Siddhanti, Ekadesha Siddhanti. So they are Mula Vidyavadins alone. They told Atma is not bodily superimposed upon the body, upon the Anatma, but only its contact is superimposed. So we understand the contact is wrong, false, but Atma remains. So to show how Atma is independently existing, they imagined this argument. They presented their philosophy in this way, saying that Atma's contact alone is superimposed upon the body. Then the Purvapakshi dismissed it, saying because it is against our experience. Anatma being superimposed, Anatma coming into existence during superimposition is against experience. And Atma, only contact of the Atma being superimposed upon the Anatma, only Atma comes into contact with the body, only contact is superimposed. Even this is against experience. Purvapakshi told both these are against experience. What is it? What are those both? Just now we have told Atma exists independent of adhyasa. Therefore, without adhyasa, without my identifying with the body, Atma does not exist, you can't say, because it is against our experience. Second point, Atma also superimposed upon the Anatma only in its contact, not the Atma. He says, if you accept that only Atma's contact alone is superimposed and not the Atma in its entirety, then what happens? It goes against our experience. What is our experience? We feel that I am the body. All the bodily qualities are my qualities. I don't feel I am the person with a body. Do we say that I am a person with a body or I am the body? I mean, nobody orally says I am the body, but he thinks as if he is the body. Okay. Nobody says, I own the body, but I am the body. Nobody thinks like that I own the body. Nobody thinks, but there is a thought in him, there is a notion in him that I am the body. This notion is clearly there, I am the body. I've taken one small tablet for my throat while speaking. Okay, this Kasturi Goli, that clears the throat. Climate is very wet. So, body, it's not contact alone. The whole body is superimposed. This is how our experience is. See, in this respect, Purvapakshi is correct. In fact, Siddhanti alone is wrong. Siddhanti means the Mula Vidyavadi. What Siddhanti told is, only the contact of the Atma is superimposed upon the body. The entire body is not superimposed. But Purvapakshi says this goes against our experience. What is our experience? I am the body. This is our notion. The notion, there is a notion that I am the body. See, our experience shows I am the body. Experience means our notion, an instinctive notion. You have not consciously cultivated. When we say notion, don't think we are consciously thinking or imagining. We don't entertain a thought because we have no will in entertaining a thought. I am the body or I am not the body. It is not a thought you choose. It is a choiceless thought. Thoughts are two. One is you consciously think. When you consciously think, you choose a thought. Okay? You entertain a thought. You consciously choose a thought. This is one. But another is thought or a notion. Another is you find yourself with it. You have no choice. A choiceless thought. Choiceless means you have not chosen to have a thought that I am the body. You find, when you are awake, you find that you are a body, that's all. And even if you want to get rid of, you can't do. You may forget the whole thing. You may go to sleep. Okay? You may go to sleep, that's different. But in your waking, that I am the body is not a consciously chosen. Okay? Not consciously chosen. It is a thought you have always with you. So therefore, I am the body is a choiceless thought, is a choiceless notion everybody has. Therefore, he says, and we don't say I own the body. Okay? We don't think that I own a body, but I am the body. Because if body is sitting, what do you say? Oh, I am putting my body here. Do you say that? See, if you have a property like pen or cell phone, you say I am putting it here. But you don't say I am putting here. I am putting my body to rest. I am putting my body in a sitting posture. You don't say. You say that I am sitting. I am standing. I am walking. I am running. Now, who is running? When you say I am body, so our own experience says it is not the ownership of the body. When you say I am sitting, I am walking, I am here and I am running, I am here. When you say I am here in this room, when you say you clearly show that I am a body. Okay? When there is a clear experience, everybody's experience, it is universal. Nobody is imagining, or nobody can be trained, nobody can be, what you say that, coached. Like some of the false witnesses are coached by some lawyers and taken to the court. So he will speak there exactly the way he is coached. But here, nobody is coached that I am the body. It is an instinctive. Instinctive means natural, uncultivated and choiceless. Uncultivated and choiceless. A notion that I am the body. That's why we told Adhyasa is Anadi. That I am the body and body is me and I am the body. This notion of Adhyasa, this notion which is called Adhyasa, is instinctive, natural, choiceless. Everybody, choiceless in the sense, you don't consciously choose this thought. You find yourself in this thought. You find that we are the body. We happen to find, that's all. And you have no choice to remove it. Oh, why should I have the body? Remove it. No, you can't remove, because it is not available for choosing. It is not a matter of choice. It is choicelessly present. But it can be corrected. It can be transcended. You can transcend it. That means you can discover. Transcending is not a physical action. Okay? Adhyasa correction is not a physical action. Adhyasa correction or Adhyasa transcending. Transcending means my misunderstanding, wrong perception that I am the body. This instinctive, natural, choiceless perception can be transcended, can be corrected. Transcending by discovering. Transcending means what? You can discover that the consciousness is beyond the very identification with the body. The consciousness, the Atma Chaitanyam in its original nature is untouched. It doesn't have a notion. It is free from the connection with the body through the notion. So, transcending means only understanding. Understanding means you only come to discover Atma is already free. Atma is ever free from any contact with the body. The contact which I am seeing, that identification that I am the body which I am seeing now, is only during my identification state. It is within my identification state of identification. It is within my identified state, but Atma in its original nature is ever free. So you only turn your attention and discover that Atma is free from Adhyasa. So transcending means is not a physically like a climbing the staircase and going to the upper floor. Neither the transcending is not an action. It is not a result of action. It is neither like climbing the staircase and going over to the upper story. Leave the lower story and reach the upper story. Nor by a lift. You sit in the lift and press it. The lift moves and takes you to the another floor. Either lift or escalator or anything, whatever. Nor it is like an helicopter. You sit in the helicopter. That's all. It is a wireless connection. No staircase. In the air it moves and goes up. It is neither like escalator, nor like lift, nor like helicopter. Then what? It is not any movement. It is not going from one place to another place. See, Adhyasa is not one place and Atma is not in another place. Okay? You are not going from one place to another place. They are not two different places. If it were a place, you have to cross the distance. Crossing the distance is an action. Okay. Nor it is a two objects. Atma is one, Anatma, body is one object. Atma is another object. So from one object to another object, if you are traveling, if you have to travel and cross the distance, cross the object, cross the time, that means you have to overcome space, overcome time, overcome object. If that were the case, then that overcoming, that crossing would have been a karma. Here Shankaracharya says it is only by knowledge. This transcending is only by knowledge. That means what? You don't have to cross any time. You don't have to cross any space. You don't have to cross any object, because the space, time and itself, all of them are Adhyasta. Atma in its real nature is ever free from any Adhyasa. It is ever free from any bodily nature. So you only have to discover that Atma is ever free. Nitya Siddha. Atma is ever free. Atma is Nitya Mukta. Nitya Mukta is ever free. So Atma in its real nature doesn't have adhyasa. He is always free from adhyasa. So the adhyasa you find, being in adhyasa, you find adhyasa. You find misperception only under misperception. So when you discover, you are free. Therefore, you are not transcending. You are transcending in the sense you are not moving, traveling from one place to another. You only come to discover that you are ever free. See, it's a matter of discovery, not a matter of from one place to going to another place. Going from one place to another. So bodily adhyasa, it is one space, one condition. And then Atma, being free from the body, is another condition. If it is a condition, what is it? Is it a spatial condition, or time-wise, or object, or the state of mind? Do you have two states of mind, two thoughts? One thought is like that, another thought is like that. You move from one thought to another thought? No, it's not that way. It is only shifting your vision, angle of looking, a standpoint of looking at it. Then what happened? Atmas is understood that it is already free, ever free. It was never bound, neither now nor before nor in future. The very nature of Atma is such that it can't have adhyasa. The very nature of Atma is such that it can never misunderstand. It can never have any adhyasa. But how do you say Atma cannot make mistakes, Atma cannot have adhyasa and all that? But we find adhyasa. We find means what? Now our reply is, we find means what? We find means what? It only shows that anadi adhyasa. It doesn't prove that it really sticks to Atma. Naturally we find, but yet Atma is free from adhyasa. Atma never undergoes Atma's nature. You shift your vision to Atma's nature. In the nature of Atma, Atma by itself is ever free from any adhyasa, any body, any time, space and world relationship, everything. Atma is ever free from all adhyasas. So this is what we have to discover. So it is a matter of discovery. So what is the mistake? Then what is the problem? It is only a misunderstanding is the problem. Adhyasa is a misunderstanding. A natural, beginningless adhyasa. It's not a cultivated misunderstanding, trained misunderstanding. It is naturally, instinctively there in everybody. See? Therefore, Purvapakshi says, there is, you are telling that Atma's adhyasa upon the Atma is only in terms of contact, is only in the nature of its contact, but Atma is not bodily superimposed. And if you say that, what happens? It goes against our experience. Our experience says, I am the body, I am here, I am sitting. It's a direct our experience. Now, your interpretation is going against experience. Purvapakshi says. Purvapakshi is objecting to Siddhanti. Siddhanti also goes wrong sometimes. Not all Vedantins, but a certain section of Vedantins. We call them Ekadeshi. Desha andre a part. Ekadesha, a small part. Small part means a section of Vedantins, not all the Vedantins. Okay. Therefore, Purvapakshi says, it is wrong. If it is there, there is adhyasa. But adhyasa also you can't accept. Complete Atma's adhyasa upon the Anatma. So our anubhava is, I am the body. It is a direct everybody's experience, universal experience. So you can't develop a philosophy, design a philosophy against this experience. Therefore, in your experience, you find yourself to be an individual. When you transcend, when you discover that your real nature is ever free from being identified, ever free from identification with the body. Okay, identification with the body It's not that it existed for some time and later it is removed. No. Identification with the body never existed in the nature of Atma. Yet you find it. There's a strange thing about is, Atma in its original nature is ever free from adhyasa. That means it is impossible to have any adhyasa. Yet you find adhyasa. That's what it is. You find it. That's the only reason. Nothing else can be told. No logic is required to prove that there is adhyasa, except that you are under adhyasa. You find yourself in that adhyasa. That's all. And then, since you find it, you have not brought it due to some reason. It is anadi adhyasa. Anadi adhyasa means there is an instinctive misunderstanding that I am the body. So this is instinctive, beginningless, natural adhyasa can be corrected by the right vision, right understanding of the truth. Okay, so Purvapakshi continues, Drishta Virodha Prasangat, your Siddhanta is against experience. So that means we can't accept it. It goes wrong. It is if it is a wrong means what? Still you are under misunderstanding, you have not corrected your misunderstanding. That's what it means. If you can find fault with somebody's Siddhanta, it shows that Siddhanta is still conceived under misconception. So an element of misconception is continuing. He may think that he is enlightened and then he has transcended all that. But no. Because Atma by its very nature is ever free from samsara. It just doesn't know anything. It is always Ananda Sarupa, always existence, knowledge and Ananda, happiness. Therefore, Drishta Virodha, your Siddhanta, Purvapakshi says, goes against your experience. Then, Tadatra Vastavikaha Evaka. Then what is your view? See, Purvapakshi refutes Siddhanti's view, showing that it is against experience and it is illogical. Okay, Purvapakshi refuted Siddhanti, Ekadesha Siddhanti, not all, Mula Vidyavadi Siddhanti. Then what is his, see here the point is, when you find fault with others, you should show what is the right also. Without showing the right, if you simply find fault with it, we call it as a Vitandavada. If you find fault with somebody's idea, what is this? This is a pencil or this is a notebook. If you disprove that it is a notebook, then you have to prove what it is. You can't just say, disprove the mistakes, but the truth we don't say. Okay. Therefore, transcending is only correction, means discovery. Discovery is a purely knowledge, no real change or movement or modification. It's just a discovery that Atma is ever free. Adhyasa is beginningless, choiceless. Nobody made it. Nobody can stop it by effort. Nobody made Adhyasa by his effort. Nobody can stop it by his effort. He finds himself in it. That's all we can say. Okay. But though avidya is beginningless and endless, instinctive or natural, yet it can be transcended by understanding. It can be transcended. Transcending is only in terms of understanding. That means you understand the Atma, the consciousness, is ever free from adhyasa. It has neither birth nor death nor relationship nor anything. It's just free, ever free, eternally free. Its very nature is free. Not that it has acquired freedom. If you acquire the freedom, then what happens? Earlier you didn't have for a long time and later you acquired it. If you didn't have it one time and later you acquired it, it only shows Atma's nature is not understood. According to Siddhanta. So here he says, the Purvapakshi says, your Siddhanta is wrong. I'll give you alternative Siddhanta. His own imagination. Therefore, we say that some relation must be there. If Atma is not related to the body, you would not find this experience that I am the body. But here we find clearly I am the body. Adhyasa is very evident, very clear. Nobody can dispute, nobody can dismiss it, nobody can disprove it. You find yourself that a relationship. So that adhyasa is against your explanation is against experience. Therefore, there must be. Then what is your explanation? Purvapakshi is asked. Then you are refuted others, but you offer your explanation. Let us see. And compare with our answer, Upanishadic answer, whether your explanation is better than the Upanishadic teaching. Purvapakshi says like that only. Though he also respects Veda, but he gives a very peculiar interpretation. Therefore, tadatra vastavika eva kaschana sambandha kalpayitavyaha. Therefore, Purvapakshi says, we must accept, we must imagine that there is a real sambandha between Atma and Anatma, because during Adhyasa, Atma seems to be totally identified with the body. This is what our experience is. When we have such an experience, how can you deny this sambandha? Sambandha is there already. Therefore, tadatra vastavika eva kaschit sambandha kalpayitavyaha. A real relationship must be accepted to exist. Vayantu pashyamo vamshasthavatu. Purvapakshi says, then what is the real relationship? He says, Vayamtu pashyamo vamshaha svamshastambhavat tayo sanyoga eva sambandha iti. Sambandha between Atma and body, there is sambandha, not adhyasa. Adhyasa is a sambandha. Purvapakshi says, there is sambandha, no doubt, but the nature of sambandha is not adhyasa. Nature of sambandha is not adhyasa. Without adhyasa, we have to accept sambandha. This is all created now. This is becoming very popular these days. Tadatra vastavika eva kaschana sambandha kalpayitavyaha vayam tu pashyamo. But how is the relationship between Atma and the body? I give you a model instead of my explaining. Purvapakshi says, I shall give you a model, an illustration. With the help of it, you will understand. I don't have to explain all the details. Now he says, Vamshastambhavat tayo sanyoga eva sambandha. Atma and the body have got a sanyoga sambandha. Just they come into contact. Like Vamsha and Stambha. Vamsha and Stambha, you know that? One is Vamsha is the upper. Stambha is a pillar and a rafter which connects one pillar to other, or a beam, let us say beam. Beam and pillar. I think beam and pillar is better. A cross beam and a pillar. So when the two pillars are connected by a cross beam, this is called Vamsha Stambha. Stambha is pillar, Vamsha is a cross beam. Okay, these are Sanskrit words. Vamsha is bamboo, that is one meaning. Vamsha is dynasty. Vamsha means a bamboo stick. Vamsha means it's only a bamboo's what you call the play, flute. Flute is also called Vamsha. Because earlier flute used to be only made out of Vamsha. Vamsha means a bamboo, what you say that? Not stick exactly, a bamboo pipe. A bamboo pipe. Later now modern we have got all modern flutes are made of iron and all other metals. and it has got all modern facilities, much more facilities. It is a highly decorated, ornamented one, highly sophisticated. But in those days, it was only a bamboo pipe. So Vamsha means dynasty, Vamsha means bamboo pipe, that is a flute, or Vamsha means many things. But here Vamsha is cross beam, pillar and cross beam. Stambha is a pillar and a cross beam. Now he says Atma and Anatma, that is body. Atma and body are connected like pillar and the cross beam. Pillar is below, stands like this erect, and the cross beam comes across. Okay, from left to right there is an across, and this gets connected here, and here is pillar, here is pillar. Two, it connects. The cross beam connects the two, isn't it? Here is one pillar, here is one pillar, and it connects. So he says, just as they are just connected, both of them are independent, both of them are real, they only come in contact with each other, that's all. Again, they can be separated. Even after separation, they continue. Pillar continues as a pillar, cross beam continues as a cross beam, even after separation. Okay, therefore, similarly, Atma Anatma relation is like Vamshastambhavat, cross beam and pillar. I don't know which one is pillar and which one is cross beam. Probably body is a pillar. I don't know what he says. Body is a pillar and Atma is a cross beam. Something like that, whatever he imagines, it is his only. Okay. Purvapakshi says, Atma Anatma are connected in this way. Therefore, Vayam tu Pashyamaha Vamshastambhavat Tayoga Sanyogaha Eva Sambandhaha Iti Nacha Adhyasta Atma Bhavena Dehena Vina Vyapara Sambhavaschidatmani. Now you can't say. What was Siddhanti's advocation, Siddhanti's view, argument? Adhyasta Atma Bhavena Dehena Vina. Without the body superimposed upon the Atma, without the body being superimposed upon the Atma and Atma superimposing upon the body, you cannot function. Nacha adhyastatma bhavena dehena vina, without a body which is superimposed upon the Atma, vyaparascha asambhavaschidatmani. No vyapara, no functioning, no movement, no vyavahara is possible within the pure Atman. Pure Atman without the body, it has no location, it has no time. See, no location. Without the body, Atma doesn't have any one individuality. And no vyapara, no working, nothing will work. Therefore, in pure Chidatma cannot function, cannot act, cannot see, cannot know. Only through Upadhi, only through Anatma's connection, only through its connection with Anatma, Atma can have all the functions, like thinking, speaking, writing and all that. Whatever Vyavahara we do, all the Vyavahara. Therefore, nahi vyapara sambhavaschidatmani shariradishtatrutvenaiva tat sambhavat. Because any vyapara upon the Atma, that means on the part of Atma, any functioning, any acting, any movement, anything, any kind of action on the part of the Atma is possible only through the body. Without the body, Atma would not have this moving and coming and going and all those things. You read Ashtadhyayi and Siddhanta Kaumudi, you compare, you study with the comparison, you will find lot of confusion and many points get cleared, and in few places you get stuck also. Okay. Therefore, Purvapakshi says, Shariradhishtatritvenaiva tat sambhavat. So, without the body being connected to Atma, no action is possible. And Shariradhishtatritvenaiva tat sambhavat. Then Atma is the Adhisthana and body is Adhyasthanit. Only through this Vyapara. Any vyapara is possible when body is connected with the Atma. Atma starts wielding the body. Okay. शरीराधिष्ठातृत्वेनैव तत्संभवात् न हि सव्यापारः स्वाश्रित अध्यस्त आत्मभावत्वनियतः. So therefore, it is not necessary. Niyataha means it is not necessary, it is not compulsory that body must be superimposed upon the Atma in order to own the body and function through the body. Atma can function through the body without the body being superimposed upon the Atma. See, how is it possible? See, nahi swavyaparaha swashrita adhyasta atma bhavatvaniyataha. It is not necessary that you have to impose it. Without imposing also you can function, you can use the body and carry out all functions. How he says, drishyante hi anadhyastatma bhavam viranadikam vyaparayantaha katakartradayaha. Katakarta, the mat maker. Kata means, mat. You spread out on the ground and sleep and sit and do anything. In villages we were using, even now we use here, we are using the kata. Kata is made by grass, a specific grass or leaves. So he says, a katakartra, drishyante hi anadhyastatma bhavam viranadikam vyaparayantaha katakartra. Katakartra uses an instrument. What is that viranam? I forgot viranam. Straw. Straw. Yes. He uses the straw. Viranam means viranadikam. He takes the straw and one straw connects with another straw and then twines it and goes on twining or joining and twining like that. Then a mat is weaved. Therefore, are we not using straw, a blade of straw? Are we not using the thread of the straw or the blade of the straw without identifying that I am the straw? Do we need to identify that I am the straw in order to use the straw? This is the straw is an illustration used in other places like Mimamsakas. Therefore, Swamiji is also using because it is a traditional. But let us take a pen. Pen. See, do you need to identify with a pen in order to use the pen for writing? I can use the pen for writing without identifying with the pen. I know I am not the pen. Still I can use the pen. Don't we see that? This is Purvapakshi continuing. Therefore, drishyante hi adhyasta atma bhavamapi anadhyasta atma bhavamapi viranadikam. The straw or pen, you have not imposed. That means you have not identified with them. Even without identification with the straw or pen, we are able to use them. Aren't we? Viranadikam vyaparayantaha katakartradayaha. The mat makers use the straw. Without identifying with the straw, he uses the straw for making mats. Similarly, when we write, we use the pen to write without identifying ourselves with the pen. We don't have to identify with the pen. Without identifying with the pen, we are able to use the pen. Similarly, Atma is using the body. Atma is not identified with the body. Nor body is superimposed with the Atma. We are only using the body, and their identification with the body is not necessary. This is what Purvapakshi means. Drishyante hi anadhyasta atma bhavam api. Without identification also, we are able to use the instruments. We find many. Viranadikam vyaparayantaha katakartradayah tasmat ayukta muktam cha anadhyastatma bhavena dehena kaschid vyapriyate is objecting. Now, Purvapakshi concludes his argument. He objects to whom? Bhashyakara. Anadhyasta atma bhavena na kinchid vyapriyate. This is the last statement of the Bhashyakara. On that we went on like this few weeks. We went on like that. Anadhyasthatma bhavena dehena kaschid vyapriyate. Without doing adhyaropa of the body upon yourself, you can't function. Okay. Therefore, there is no adhyasa. Still we are able to use it. So we are using the body. That means body is real. Without adhyasa, before adhyasa, body exists. It is our experience. We are able to use, even while using also no adhyasa. After using it, you leave the body here, you leave the thing here, still it remains. Therefore, what is the conclusion? There is no adhyasa. This is Purvapaksh's idea. Now Siddhanti has to answer. Oh, even Purvapakshi we took for 3 classes. 3 or even more. I don't remember. Now the Siddhanti answer, Atrochate sarvame vedam ayuktam. All that you said is wrong totally. It doesn't stand further probing, further inquiry, further investigation. If you investigate deeply into it, you find that your statement is wrong. What is your stand? Purvapakshi stand? No adhyasa, yet we are using the body like we use the straw, like a mat maker uses the straw while making a mat. Similarly, while doing all vyavahara, we use the body. There, body exists independent of Atma. Atma exists independent of the body, yet it uses the body for functioning. This is his idea. This idea is totally wrong. How wrong? Siddhanti shows. Yat tavaduchyate dehader anyonyadhyase ubhayora prasatva prasanga iti tadasat. I think we will stop with this. Already time is up. 12:10. Okay. 12:10. So Purvapakshi at least you have completed. Now Siddhanti refutes. Siddhanti shows to be able to use the body, for the body to exist, for the body to be used for functioning, there must be adhyasa. Without adhyasa, neither you find the body nor you will be able to use the body. This is the important. Siddhanti says only within adhyasa body is found. And you are found to be using the body only within adhyasa. Without adhyasa, neither body is found nor its using, nor its utility is found. This is what Siddhanti's contention. Purvapakshi says it is not. But in between, Purvapakshi makes many more objections again in future also. He brings few more arguments. Purvapakshi's argument looks very strange and very correct also. But again, with the help of the Vedantins, you laugh at it, Purvapakshi goes wrong. In my younger days, when we were studying Vedanta with under our gurus, some of our senior, I was too young fellow, and there were all, generally Vedanta means only aged people come. So only aged people or very, very senior to us, all retired people. I was still young fellow, and then so they used to come. We would talk to them. They would ask a question like this: Why Purvapakshi? Sometimes Purvapakshi talks very intelligently, but still he goes wrong. Purvapakshi talks very intelligently, but after Siddhanti can find fault with him, Purvapakshi gets defeated. Now they ask the question, why Purvapakshi is so intelligent goes wrong? Always Purvapakshi goes wrong. Why Purvapakshi always says wrong things, and why Siddhanti is always right? This is again a childish question. They are all aged people, but put childish questions. Purvapakshi means what? We select a wrong view, which looks intelligent in the beginning. This is what Jiva is. Jiva looks intelligent, but he is wrong. Let Jiva explain his argument, his standpoint. Later Vedanti shows your standpoint is wrong. The standpoint which you have adopted is wrong. Therefore, we first accept those views of Jivas. Naturally, Jivas are entertaining these ideas and experiences. We take them up and show them how they are wrong. This is Viveka. In Viveka, you understand wrong as a wrong and right as a right. This is Viveka, you distinguish it. Now you understand how body is found only under Adhyasa, and its using also under Adhyasa. That means within Adhyasa alone you feel as if there is a body, as if you are functioning, but Atma by itself is ever free. Neither it is associated with the body, nor it uses the body, nor it needs the body. Atma is by itself complete. Atma by itself is complete, it doesn't need it. Therefore, anadhyastha atma bhavena na kinchit vyapriyate. Any functioning, any vyavahara takes place only within adhyasa. Without adhyasa, no functioning, no vyavahara, nothing is possible. Atma always remains transcended. You only have to discover, you don't have to transcend, because already Atma is already beyond the body. Atma is independent of the body. From the standpoint of Atma, there is no body. There is no world. See, from the standpoint of Sushupti, Atma, there is neither body nor the world nor anything. It's not that Atma is suffering from the body and later it has to get rid of the body. Atma never suffered. Atma never suffered under the pressure of the body, because Atma never owns the body. From the standpoint of Atma, there is no body apart from it. There is no body independent of it other than it. Atma itself is. Purvapakshi misses here. He says body exists separately and Atma uses it. How it is wrong, Siddhanta is going to say. We'll see in the next class. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat.